Oldboy 2013 is a mouth-watering epic from the genius mind of director Spike Lee that rivals his 2006 masterpiece Inside a Man. It perfectly tweaks the 2003 Japanese Oldboy story for an American audience, meeting and exceeding the original at every turn. Lovers of cinema and incest alike are sure to enjoy this film. I know I did. The film begins with the lovable protagonist Joe drunkenly stumbling across a city, pissing on the streets, then sexually harassing his co-worker's wife. I appreciate this film making the protagonist more likable than that mop-headed goober in the original. It helps you sympathize with him so much more. He is then kidnapped and locked in a room for 20 years. Here is where we begin to analyze the deep philosophical psychological meaning behind Oldboy. Joe being locked in a room resembles the metaphor in the closet, used when a homosexual is afraid to come out with their sexuality to their loved ones. The last thing Joe does before being locked in the room is desperately attempt to fight back against his urges by flirting with his co-worker's wife, as many gay people find themselves pretending to be straight in order to avoid condemnation and fit in with their peers. The room, or closet, Joe is locked in is not only a metaphor for gay, however, but also the psychological turmoil and isolation he spirals down as he loses his job and grapples with his sexuality for the next 20 years. Joe felt he had wasted his life during this time and may as well have been literally locked in a room. Joe's repressed sexuality is demonstrated throughout every scene of his isolation. Soon after being locked in the room, he makes a desperate attempt to grab the dick of a prison guard through the door hole. In another scene, he jerks off into a pillow while watching a male bodybuilder program on TV. The pillow covering his genitals represents his attempts to repress his urges. He is afraid of looking at his own penis out of fear that it makes him gay, reinforced through a scene where he closes his eyes when he pees and ends up spraying all over the floor. Later, he finds a mouse in his room and keeps it as a pet, which is gay. In the next scene, it is served to him through his door hole, cooked for him to eat. Another clear metaphor for his sexual repression. The years go by and Joe is shown working out in an attempt to grow stronger, representing the difficulty of coming to terms with his gay. Eventually, Joe is about to make it out, but he's distracted by gay porn on the TV, then is knocked out by sleeping gas and awakens in a suitcase in the middle of a field. This represents him telling his loved ones about his sexuality, yet feeling hesitance about his decision afterwards. Despite this hesitance, he cannot go back. He's gay, and the world knows it. It's also worth examining the villain when processing the homosexual themes of the film. The extremely heterosexual villain is the one responsible for locking the gay protagonist into his closet for years. The villain is clearly intended to represent how a toxic society values heterosexuality and the idea of a masculine manly man, while shunning and beating down the slightest hint of gay. This is evidenced by the villain's nearly comically exaggerated straightness in scenes such as the one where he immediately begins unzipping upon seeing his father enter the room, a very heterosexual thing to do. Father! His heterosexuality is further reinforced when he smooches Joe, then deep-throats his pistol and shoots a load into his mouth. Every heterosexual act in the film is presented monstrously, in fact. Joe petting his co-worker's wife. The villain fucking Joe's wife. The goons fucking Joe's daughter. Joe fucking Joe's daughter. Joe's friend Chucky sniffing the chair the evil goth girl henchman was sitting in as soon as she gets up, for which she kills him by crushing his head between her thighs. And the villain's dad fucking the villain's sister in a greenhouse outside a school, then molding when someone sees him. Looking beyond the themes of sexuality, never before have I seen such seamless product placement in a film. The 8K pixel quality of the iPad Pro Plus and its 1411 kilobytes per second surround sound speakers will allow you to experience the video of me raping and murdering your wife up close and personal. Now, to get into the technicals of the film, its editing will keep you on the edge of your seat. particularly during Joe's prison escape. He'll be fighting one group of goons in one shot and in a completely different location with a different group of enemies in the next, with no explanation provided. It truly demonstrates Oldboy 2013's status as a thinking man's film, leaving the viewer to fill in the blanks themselves on what happened in between the sudden cuts. Now on to the acting. Holy gee whiz, Batman. You will feel fully immersed in the beauty of the Oldboy 2013 universe with its gripping, breathtaking performances. From Samuel L. Jackson's visceral cries calling Joe a booger eater while Joe cuts out tiny pieces of flesh from Samuel's neck then disinfects the wounds using salt and water, to Joe's stoic expression of grief when he finds out his childhood friend Chucky has been brutally murdered. This is how a man processes grief. Compare this to the freakout of the Chinese interpretation's protagonist, worthy of a spot on r/cringe. Like seriously, dude, stop. The romance scenes are particular standouts of acting prowess. You'll feel guilty of incest yourself watching Joe and his daughter passionately trade flirtations and engage in symphonies of skin under the watchful eye of a milky moon. Oldboy 2013 is also commendable for giving Rami Malek a career. It is said that immediately after Spike Lee saw Oldboy in 2003, he called Rami and simply told him, "You are needed." Upon Oldboy 2013's release, his character, Browning, was an instant classic, winning him international stardom. His dedication to the character was so extreme that on one occasion, when an intern mistakenly called him Rami instead of Browning as he had demanded, Rami began savagely biting him. The level of richly layered method acting Malek brought to Browning makes his Freddie Mercury performance look like it's out of a school play. Fuck Oldboy, it's all about Browning boy. Browning for smash, you skank-ass hoes. In honor of Rami's performance as Browning, I think it's only right that I pause the review for a while to show you the entirety of his screen time in all its glory. Buckle up.
You know the drill, put it on the table. 39 across, alter ego of Edmond Dantes.
Count of Monte Cristo.
Finally, we must talk about the ending. Oldboy's ending will utterly shock you and leave your eyes secreting lacrimal fluids. It will twist a knife into your heart and a dick into your poo hole. The straight British villain reveals he set Joe up to fuck his own daughter as revenge for the United States winning the War of Independence, playing on the American stereotype of incest, then begins blasting God Save the Queen through his Apple HomePod Mini as he hits the gritty. Joe's mouth lunges agape in what first appears to be horror as the villain smugly laughs, but it soon becomes clear it's a soy face of pleasure as Joe thanks him and reveals his incest fetish, the only thing stronger than his homosexuality. You can practically hear the villain's heart drop as he realizes he's wasted his life plotting the revenge. He then screams in fury and shoots himself. This is a brilliant change from the Mongolian beta test of Oldboy that subverts expectations for even those who watched the original, as well as making the film more relatable to an American audience. The film ends with Joe sending a heartfelt letter to his daughter. "Dear Mary, you will never see me again. I'm gone from your life forever. I have done something cringe, something sus, and for it I must be ejected. For a short while, life was poggers, because of you, and I will cherish those pog moments forever. Mary, I will love the memory of banging your thick ass always, but you must forget me. I want you to find happiness with a good guy, not a bad guy like me. Goodbye, your father."